Welcome into another edition of Roaring with the Bengals here on isubengals.com, all ISU Athletics social media, as well as the official Bengals YouTube channel. Brandon Bainey on location again, coming to you today from the film room here inside Reed Gym, just underneath Reed Gym, where the volleyball and men's and women's basketball programs come in and watch the film and break it all down. Today, you're going to get 3 guests for the price of 1. Pretty awesome deal. And bat and leadoff, no pressure. Coach Looney from the men's basketball team. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for letting us take over your space here for the show today.
Yeah, no problem. Our people on campus did a really good job renovating this room.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about it. I mean, this is a pretty nice facility for the players to come into.
Yeah, not only our current players, but also recruits and their families as well. We use this as a meeting space during our official visits. But more importantly, right now, as we're starting to get ready to play games, obviously a lot of film with our current team too.
Definitely. So we had you on about a month ago, and we were talking about that trip to Panama you guys took. And so how have things been going since then? What has the team been working on?
Well, we've had a ton of practice days, probably the most grueling part of the year if you're a student athlete. Everyone's looking forward to that first game, opportunity to put on a uniform and play against somebody else. And we're 3 days away right now, so our group's pretty excited. I feel great about it as the head coach. We've got everybody dressed in uniform at practice right now, praying that we can continue to stay healthy as we get closer to game day.
Yeah, it's always such an important factor for sure. So when you start a new season and you're looking at the practice schedule, do you structure your practices based upon the players you have? Do you kind of get the feel of the team, or is it something you have pretty set every year?
Well, there's some rules from the NCAA in regards to what you can and cannot do this time of year. Not only from hours per week, but how many days you can actually use as well. Our rule at Division I, we can start our first official practice 42 days before your first game, but you can only use 30 of those 42 days. So as you look at a calendar, there's just some random off days during the middle of a week where maybe you wouldn't have later in a season. So I think that's a big part of managing it. I think I look at it from a couple different directions. Obviously, off days are important in regards to everyone's rest and recovery, but where you place them also is important for your probably long-term conditioning too.
Yeah, so what do? Do you put it on a Friday and give them a long weekend? Do you put it in the middle of the week? How do you?
For us, there's been a lot of different things that we've kind of factored into it. Lack of available space is one of them. We most often have used Thursdays off when we've had home volleyball games, and then we've always taken Sunday off as well.
Yeah, that works out pretty well.
Yeah.
On those off days, is it the players can just go do their own thing, or there team activities that aren't basketball related that happen?
When it's off, it needs to be totally off.
Yeah.
So there's no weights on those days. There are no team meetings. Do the players find ways to get together off the floor? Yeah, they do. And I think this group has done a really good job kind of staying close and organizing some activities amongst themselves.
Yeah, I was going to ask about how the camaraderie of this, because you've got a good nucleus of guys returning with the new players that are coming in. How is that meshed?
Well, you'd be shocked how a trip to a place like Panama can bring everyone together. That definitely happened for us on that trip. But even since then, there's been some stuff our guys have organized together off the floor. And sometimes some of it may seem corny, but it's really big stuff, like Friday nights, this part of the year where we're not playing games. There's been nights where a lot of them have gone to a movie together. There was even a night where all of us, coaches included, went to Idaho Falls and we shot each other with paintballs for about 2.5 hours. So yeah, there's been some fun stuff to try to help bring the group even closer.
Is the most accurate shot in paintball also the most accurate three-point shooter? Does that correlate?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any translation at all.
All right, so you talked about the guys like to go to movies. Is there a film buff among the group? Somebody who really likes to critique and give ratings? Or
I would say 2 guys that come to mind are Miguel Tomley and Tommy Ball. Those are probably the two that have voiced at least their opinion the most.
The real cinephiles, that's what you call the cinematic fanatics. Okay, so let's start talking about some of these guys that Bengals fans are going to get to see here in just a couple of days. The guy I wanted to start with is a returning player, Braden Parker, who is a tremendous player inside. He had to shoulder the load a lot last year, and I feel like with the addition of Colby Lee, another big, I feel like that's going to help Braden Parker out in terms of load management a little.
Yeah, Braden is an awesome kid. Has already graduated from ISU, is in a graduate program right now. So not only on the floor, he's excelling in kind of all areas of his life right now. 2 years ago, a year where we finished fourth place in the Big Sky and felt like we overachieved, Braden was a big part of that. Was an honorable mention all-conference player. Definitely gave us an inside post presence. I think Braden would even own this if he were on this podcast with us. He took a step back a year ago, but I can honestly say pretty consistently every day in practice, even our foreign tour to Panama, we feel like we have the Braden we had 2 years ago right now. And honestly, a big part of that is probably the addition of Colby Lee, which brings a lot of competition every day when Braden comes into the gym. Right now, that's a big part of our deal. We want an interior post presence at all time. The combination of the two of them together to be able to give each other breathers, replace the other when one might be in foul trouble. The combination of two, we think, can make us a much more productive offensive team.
Yeah, that was something I noticed last year was Braden. He'd get in foul trouble, and then that changes how he has to play a little bit and having that other card.
Not only when he would go out of the game, it wouldn't change necessarily how he had to play. It would change how the whole group had to play too.
Yeah, definitely. So how do their skills complement and contrast each other, Colby and Braden?
Well, I think from a physicality standpoint, they're very similar. Both big, thick. They'll move some other people around. They both have a pretty strong skill set in regards to making baskets in the post. I think both have done a good job passing out of there, too, so far this year.
And then that correlates into the next guy I wanted to talk about, Daxton Carr. I think, again, having Colby Lee added in will help him a little bit. He had to bang down low at times last year and was maybe a little undersized against other opponents, but how do you see Daxton Carr fitting in?
You know what? Daxton's always been a guy that we can rely on defensively. Great length, athleticism, energy. We don't expect anything different from him in that area. We've actually, because of how many bodies we have and feel that we have more depth, we've used him at different positions throughout the fall as well, including at the 5 with those other two guys.
Interesting. Okay, and in terms of toughness, he's not going to back down from the challenge of playing the 5, right?
No, he's a guy that now, being an older player, he's got a ton of experience on game day too.
Yeah, he came in and had that raw athleticism, and then I thought really started to refine his skills and learned how to be a better overall player.
Yeah, I think up to this point, he's been a somewhat inconsistent shooter from 3 when he's been open. I think he's done a better job making shots so far.
Definitely. And that was the other thing I wanted to touch on is it seems like there's maybe more versatility with this year's team. Guys that can step out and play there, guys that can also play inside if need be.
There's a lot more of a lot of things. Definitely versatility would be one. But I think maybe versatility that fits well with how we want to play long term. I think we got guys with a good feel, an elevated IQ, but we also have a ton of length and a lot more perimeter shooting too.
Definitely. All right, well, we'll take a break. We talked about the bigs. We'll come back and talk about the guys that are going to be featured in the backcourt, and we'll also tell you what's coming up on the schedule as well. Boy, I'm so excited. I'm a college basketball junkie, Coach Looney, so I'm very excited that Bengal basketball is back.
Me too.
Definitely. All right, well, we'll be back right after this break. You're watching/listening to Roaring with the Bengals on isubengals.com. with the Bengals on isubengals.com. Brandon Baney here with head men's basketball coach Ryan Looney, and we are coming to you from the film room here inside Reed Gym, where the Bengals get in and watch film, and they've been busy doing that as they prepare for their season opener coming up on October 29th against Walla Walla University. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but Coach, I wanted to finish up talking about some of the key players that'll be featured this year. Let's talk about the guys in the backcourt. The first guy I want to start with is A.J. Bergen, because he's a dog defensively. He was, to me, one of the best on-ball defenders in the conference last year.
Yeah, he'll do a good job competing in that area. We've challenged him to improve his off-ball defense, just making sure he can anticipate, get to the right spots, and keep competing every possession until we've got the ball back.
Yeah, it is. It's a different mindset, right? Because you can get so locked in on, okay, this guy's the top scorer, I need to lock in. You can kind of lose sight of everything else that's happening, right?
Yeah, the biggest thing about us on the defensive end of the floor is doing it together, playing within a system, making sure all five guys are on the same page. So AJ's had a ton of growth in that area. He's had a lot of teammates that have really grown as well.
Definitely. Let's talk about Jared Rodriguez. I felt like he really was one of the heartbeats of the team last year. When he was up here, the team was up here, and there was a couple times where maybe he was a little lower, but what do you think about him?
Yeah, towards the end of the season last year, he was maybe one of our more productive offensive players. I think the challenge with Jared all offseason and this fall is to make it more consistent. I think he's embraced that. He's been one of our more vocal guys in practice every single day. He knows what he needs to improve on, and I think he's ready to go.
Yeah, I think a theme I've been picking up on is you're looking for more consistency this year. We saw flashes of it a year ago, especially on the offensive end, but then there were some times where it was just a cold night and nothing seemed to be going in.
Yeah, for sure. We had a lot of young guys a year ago, some not very experienced that were kind of thrown into the fire because of injury. That can happen with the young group. What we have now is, in regards to new to Idaho State, yeah, we got a lot of new guys, but a lot of them are experienced in college basketball too.
Yeah, that helps, doesn't it?
It does. Just some older, stronger, maybe sometimes more wise bodies in there every day.
Definitely. One of those new, old, wise bodies there's Miguel Tomley, and Bengal Nation's really been buzzing about this guy in the offseason. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, Miguel's been a great addition for our program, an elite shooter from the three-point line. He's another guy who's older. You'll look at the roster, and it'll say that he's a sophomore, but he redshirted his first year at Santa Clara. Then there was the COVID year, which he got back. Then he played a year ago. So this technically is his fourth year of college basketball.
How do you keep track of that? I mean, with the COVID year and the super seniors and the graduate transfers, you got somebody on staff keeping track of what year these guys really are?
It's really hard, and trying to navigate through it as you are building and retaining your roster. It's a harder time than any time that I've been coaching.
I'm seeing now, like, some of the big-time writers that cover Kentucky and Duke and stuff, they're calling these guys super seniors. And that, I don't know, when I was in school, super senior was a bad term. That meant you didn't get done in the 4 years that was required. But now it's like a good thing, right?
Yeah, it's pretty wild navigating it. There's some interesting things in regards to, like, academics and class schedules with our guys. Like, we have the traditional 18-year-old freshman, and we've got the 23-year-old grad student who's in class with our graduate assistant. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic, to say the least, and has kind of required us to practice at some interesting times during the year too.
Yeah. What do you have a specific example of that?
Yeah, we're the breakfast club. We practice 7 to 9 a.m. every single day. Thought it was going to be a challenge early, but our group's kind of embraced it. I think if they had the choice to continue to go in the morning or later in the day, they might still consider going early.
Because then you're done, right? You're done with all the workouts for the day, right?
Unless the coach requires you to come back and watch some film.
Yeah, and you've been doing a lot of that lately, as you said.
For sure.
So, okay, so we're getting ready for the first game. It's going to be Saturday, October 29th against Walla Walla U. The town's so nice, they named it twice, Walla Walla. But you're not really – are you looking at what Walla Walla did? You're looking more like what your team is doing, right?
So we have a member of our staff who's in charge of that scouting report. He has it completely done and shared the film and the written documents with me yesterday. We won't pay any attention to it until Thursday of this week. We'll start the scout that day, finish it up on Friday, and play on Saturday.
When you look at Walla Walla, do you try to pick a team that's similar to something you might see down the road in Big Sky in terms of style, personnel, or?
Yeah, potentially. I think it's when you schedule the game, it's hard to know because, honestly, anyone could change how they play in the off-season completely. So I think you would like to do that. I don't think it's always necessarily a guarantee that that's going to happen.
Yeah. This will be an exhibition contest. Some coaches go in saying, okay, yep, I'm going to play this guy X minutes at this spot, and this guy's going to play X minutes here. And some coaches go, hey, it's another game, and the flow of the game will dictate how I play guys. Where do you fall on that?
We've already played 3 exhibition games in Panama. We're going to win. We're going to play it just like any other game and try to win.
I like that. And that will include putting guys in situations where they're most comfortable. But also you want guys to still develop it. Like you talked about Daxton Carr playing the 5, right? If the game's on the line, you probably are going to want Colby Lee down there instead of Daxton, but you still want to try him out and get him time there.
For sure, and we did that in those 3 games in Panama already, so we know what it looks like. We've been practicing that way a handful of days so far this fall as well. The truth is, like, game situations are going to dictate what our lineup looks like on the floor. Like, I could tell you right now, like, what 8, 9 guys I think are probably going to play the most amount of minutes, but the truth is, if I were to tell you that, there's going to be some situations in the game that probably change it. Foul trouble is going to put somebody different in the game. We're praying that nobody gets hurt, but that could change it, you know. Sickness could change it. There's just so many things where adversity might strike over the course of a 40-minute game that completely change what your plan was going into it.
Yeah, and I think fans can really get focused on the starting lineup sometimes. And you know what? That might change from opponent to opponent based upon the look that it gives you, right?
Yeah, I think we're pretty secure in what we want to do moving forward. Honestly, that is going to require some of our returning players to take on a little bit different role than maybe what they've had in the past.
Definitely. And then after Walla Walla, you come back on Tuesday, the 1st, to play Park University from Gilbert, Arizona. So Walla Walla and Park, what level are they? Are they D3, D2?
They're both NAI schools.
Okay.
I always kind of take a sense of pride in regards to giving some of those schools an opportunity to come play us in an exhibition game. It's great for their players, honestly great for their university to get a little bit of recognition too. I always feel good about it because I played at an NAI school, and my first head coaching job was at an NAI school as well. So opportunity for us to get on the floor against another opponent in a jersey, but also recognize that there can be some really good teams that come from that level also.
And you know that you're getting their best effort because if they go, hey, we just knocked off a D1 program, right, that's a huge caveat for them. So you're going to get their best effort.
Oh, without question. It's going to be their Super Bowl. And our guys are going to have to rise to the occasion in regards to the effort their opponent is going to give. I used to be on the other side of that for a long time. I was an NAI coach for 5 years. I was a Division II coach for 10 years. One of the years we played at the University of Arizona, and we beat them 69-68. And honestly, our program got more recognition for that win than the team that won the Division II national title that year.
That's so awesome. That's a cool – I mean, it's awesome when you're at the NAIA school. Wouldn't be awesome now.
For sure.
Right. Okay, and then, you know, we probably won't see you in time for your first road game of the year. That's going to be on the 7th at BYU. That's a monumental matchup right out of the gate.
Yeah, they'll definitely be good. I think we play Utah shortly after that. We got a combination of a lot of different types of games early in the preseason, but so does every other school in the Big Sky as well.
And it's all about getting your team best prepared for that Big Sky conference.
Yep, which now is coming after Christmas time. So we got a lot of time to make sure we're right before we even get to that portion of our schedule.
Yeah, do you like that, having it after the new year?
I do. I think sometimes it's hard when you play a couple teams early in December and then don't see them again until February. It makes it seem like a completely different season.
And sometimes the teams are completely different too. So, all right, well, we are excited to see this team, the Idaho State Bengals men's basketball team, again Saturday against Walla Walla University. Come on out to Reed Gym and show these guys some support. It's going to be an awesome time this weekend. It's going to be a 7:30 tip-off, so you're going to want to get there early, make some noise, make sure that NAIA team feels it, right?
For sure. We want our players to feel it too. I think they've worked really hard, starting all the way back to last summer. I think our staff worked really hard putting the right group of people together. I think our fans will be excited what they see on Saturday.
Yeah, well, we're excited to see it as well. Coach Looney, best of luck here, and thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Yeah, again, I appreciate you having me.
All right, well, we will step aside and come back and talk women's basketball with head coach Seton Sobolewski right after the break. You're watching Roaring with the Bengals on isubengals.com.
ISU Health Sciences graduates secure employment in an average of only 5 days. Because it's our job to help them succeed in theirs.
Welcome back to Roaring with the Bengals on isubengals.com. Coming to you from the film room here inside Reed Gym, underneath Reed Gym, where the volleyball, men's and women's basketball teams get together and watch film. Brandon Maney joined now by women's head basketball coach Seton Sobolewski. Coach, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Yeah.
We're ready to talk some basketball now.
Yes, and no better place. These seats are comfy. How do you like the film room?
Oh, it's beautiful. We owe a lot of thanks to Idaho Central and Merlin's. That they both helped us put this room together with funding from Champions Fund and all that stuff. And it's a dream come true for me. For maybe 13 years, we were in this room, and it was an old classroom, and it had broken chairs and old tables, and the projector wouldn't work, and it was just a mess. It was an absolute mess. And through Pauline's help and Idaho Central and Merlin's, they came in and saved the day here.
Gum from the 1940s stuck on the bottom of the desk.
Yeah. It was like, you could tell at one point it was like an old lab room. It had weird like fixtures in here, and then right above this room. I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic, but right above this room there is the training room, and multiple times like their water stuff up there would break and flood the ceiling down here, and you had stained tiles. And, it was just it was a mess, but we feel like we're big time now.
Yeah, don't feel bad about getting off topic. That's what the podcast is for. We'll go wherever the conversation leads.
Great.
It's pretty informal, pretty casual. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So Bengal Nation wants to know, how have practices been going so far? You've been busy at fall camp.
Yeah, our radio guy Mark Liptak came by the other day, and he kind of asked the same question. In Reed, he's come to a couple practices, and he's like, "How's it going?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I haven't had to do this in a while, and meaning work with such a young team and teach all these basics. We're last 3 years we had such an older team that they're kind of on cruise control. There's a few things that we had to do, but there's a lot of little things that we didn't have to talk about or teach because they already knew it. And so there's a lot of teaching of the basics and learning terminology and learning how to practice. That's the biggest thing that we're going through right now. Knowing how to practice so that you're prepared for games is something that we're going through.
Yeah. So what do you mean by that? Learning how to practice. What are you looking for?
Well, you're looking for first, what you're paying attention to and the level of urgency in which you practice and how hard you're practicing. that will set up for how you do in a game. And everyone's come from somewhere else, high school, from another university, from a junior college, and a lot of different philosophies and thoughts, and so getting us all on the same page and learning that, it's been a process.
Because the players not only have to learn you, but they have to learn each other as well, right?
Exactly, and a system, but all that, that matters a lot. But if you all, I think our team really likes each other. We had a great fundraiser last night with our crab feed. We had over close to 500 people there, and I think our team really likes each other. But that doesn't mean you're going to win. You got to like each other. You got to have that chemistry, and we've got to work at the right level. And so we're progressing through that.
Yeah. So the fundraiser was last night. Are there any other team activities? Like Coach Looney was on, and he said they all went paintballing. Have there been any team activities?
Oh man, we started this summer. We've done quite a lot. With having such a new group, we've done a bunch of stuff. We had a beach day at Bear Lake. This past summer, frisbee golf. I'm going to forget a whole bunch here, but a lot of different activities, barbecue at my house, some hikes. I think we went on a hike, but we had scheduled where, twice a week we had some type of team activity this summer because, we wanted to do a lot of that before you get too busy with school. And then we did have crab feed, and then we did the whole corn maze pumpkin patch thing over near Idaho Falls, and got lost in the corn maze for a couple hours, and get the people who aren't from around Idaho to experience something like that, including coaching staff. We have a couple of new coaching staff members, and so it's been really fun. Attitudes have been great, and I think we genuinely really like each other, and it's a good start.
Yeah, at the corn maze, there's always that one person that takes charge. Says, "Follow me, I know the way."
Yeah, and they don't. and then they get frustrated, and then someone else gets frustrated and steps up and starts leading the group, and they get even more lost. And then someone Googles, "Oh, you're supposed to always turn right when you're in a corn maze," and then that makes it worse. And then someone wants to just cut through the corn, but we did all right. I mean, my group, we exited the same entrance, which you're not supposed to do. That shows you we thought we got it. We ended up going through the same place we just came in. But we had a couple groups that made it all the way through.
Wow, that's fun. So you mentioned new coaches. To introduce us to the new coaches that are on staff this year.
Sure. Well, familiar face with Dora Golish. She was a longtime player here, and we've turned her into an assistant coach, and she's off to a great start. Really good in terms of just knowing our system and where and how to help. She's put together an army of male practice players for us. It's been great. I mean, they're good. They kick our butt every day in practice and show us what we need to work on. They're great guys, and they're enthusiastic when they come to practice. And Dora's just done a great job of cultivating those guys and making them feel part of what we do. We even created the other day, we film every practice, and we created a male practice player highlight film that we posted to social media, and they got a big kick at it. And they were all at the crab feed last night too. So, Dora's done a great job with that. And then you have Maya Michelle, who's coming over here from Arizona State. And she was in operations at ASU, but she does have a background where she was head coach at Vanguard University. She was working for a legendary coach there, Russ Davis, and when he became sick, she took over and did a great job. She also was an assistant at Laverne and at Mount Sac Junior College, and then she played college basketball at University of Denver. So she has just a really deep basketball knowledge and experience. And then we have new graduate assistant Kylie Hurd, who's come from Arizona. She was a player at All-American at Mesa Community College, and then played at San Diego State, and then has been working with the special needs youth in Arizona, and she wanted to get into coaching and try her hand at it, so she's here. And then we still have Courtney Smith, who's back, and she she was the one who masterminded our crab feed this year and just did a great job getting the silent auction going and driving, all the way to Reno and back to pick up the crab and yeah, she's just doing a great job.
Yeah, you have a great coaching staff in place. Dora can still step out and play too, right? If you need to in practice.
Unfortunately, she doesn't do much to help our confidence. She'll go out there and hit like some couple really deep threes, and and then someone gets yelled at for not getting out far enough, and she thinks that's funny, and it's just I love having her around. I love her personality, and yeah, she can still play.
Yeah. Okay. So I knew about Dora Golesh. I did not know about Laura Golesh. Tell me a little bit about Laura.
Dora and Laura. Yeah, we see Laura every day. Laura's in the office every day. So Laura, if those of you don't know, is Dora's dog, who became pretty famous last year. They did a newspaper article about her in the Idaho State Journal, and she's just always with Dora. It's Dora's number one companion, and Dora has her well trained and. Laura has all these different outfits that Dora puts her in, and Dora actually asked us to make Laura the emotional support animal for our team. So we actually have Laura up on our website, and so she's our quote unquote emotional support animal for the team.
Well, with Halloween just around the corner, I can't wait to see what kind of costume Laura's
in.
She's
got a little Bengal costume for her, but she'll probably come up with something else. But
yeah. All right. Well, we've talked about the coaches. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the players that Bengal fans can expect to see out on the floor this year for the Idaho State women, and we'll talk about the first batch of games coming up as well. You got a little bit of time before you're on the floor, but we're very excited to dive into that a little bit as well. So we'll take a break. We'll come back with women's head coach Seton Sobolewski right after this on Roaring with the Bengals on isubengals.com.
Who's the hardest to guard?
I'd probably say Casey.
Callie Bourne.
Laura.
Finley.
Callie Bourne.
Dang it. Definitely Finley.
Callie Bourne. I don't know.
Finley.
Marcus.
Laura.
Callie.
Finley.
Laura.
Oh, that's my
Finley.
Carson. Laura. Go with Finley.
Finley.
Cam, for sure.
Finley.
Who's the hardest to guard?
Welcome back to Roaring with the Bengals on isubengals.com. Brandon Bainey here with ISU head women's basketball coach Seton Sobolewski. As we're getting ready for the start of the season, we're just a little over a week away from that first contest. That will be on Friday, next Friday, the 4th, against Black Hill State from South Dakota. Let's talk about some of the faces we're going to see out on the floor. I wanted to start with Callie Bourne because she was the emotional leader last year, I thought, and really versatile. I mean, 1 through 5, you could ask her to play any position, and she'll hold her own.
Oh, absolutely. And what allows her to do that is she's, first off, pretty smart. I shouldn't say pretty smart. She's really smart. And, and then she has the body type. She's really strong. So she could play in the post. She's skilled enough to play on the perimeter. And those Swiss Army knives, I just love. She's, our old Bengal fans will remember, Kara Jenkins and Grace Kenyon. Even though Grace was even more of a scorer, Grace could do everything. She's one of our last players to ever have a triple-double in the game. But Callie's cut from that same cloth.
So what have you asked Callie to do to elevate her game?
I don't know about elevating her game. What we really want Callie to do, because that's going to happen naturally.
Right.
She just works really hard at it. She could have went and played pro this year. She had some teams that were bugging me to talk to her. So she could have went and played pro this past season. So that's going to be there. What we're asking Callie to do is really try to bring along the youngsters, the new people, help them learn the culture, teach them what they need to know to move forward. And she's a great person for that because she's a great communicator. She is smart, and she's willing to help pass things on.
Yeah, she's the classic player that'll pull down the rebound on the block and then bring the ball up the floor.
As
well, right?
Well, she was our top rebounder last year, and she also plays point guard. So she can, when she brings the ball down, she can also push it.
Yep. Another key returner is Finley Garnett, who I thought was tough as nails last year.
She came on at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finley's back. We're asking Finley to do the same thing, help bring along young people. And Finley's put in some good work this past year. I think you're going to see better perimeter shooting out of Finley. You're going to see someone who's really fit, really in shape. I mean, this girl's just cut everywhere, and an amazing attitude. So she's got a lot going for her, and I think we're going to obviously see more of her.
Yeah, she'd run through a brick wall if you asked her to, right?
Yeah, no, her and Callie are kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's start to break down some of these new faces that are coming in. Who are a couple of players that fans should keep an eye out for?
Yeah, there's a lot, and we're still sifting through, lineups and who's going to play or not play. We're trying to narrow some of that stuff down this week. But I think some of the people who've, our entire team would say, has looked good in practice. You first start with Bridie Burks, freshman from Lancaster, Wisconsin. She's a little point guard. She can play 1 and 2, and she's just got an amazing motor and competitive drive and defense, and always putting out an extra effort. And I think the whole team would say that she's looked impressive in practice. I think Laura Bello from Allen, Texas, 6'4" post player, really athletic, can grab the rim easily. Gets up and down. She's rebounding the ball really well. Great low post defense. Still working on some of her offensive pieces around the basket and on the perimeter, but that'll come around. She's a little late to basketball. She didn't start playing basketball until her senior year of high school. Sorry, freshman year of high school. And she works really hard. You get out there and it's time to run a sprint, and she's going to try to outrun everybody. A lot of times she does.
And there's the old adage, right? You can't coach size.
Size and that type of athleticism, yeah. Absolutely. That's a really good point.
That helps for sure. So you said, you're still evaluating the pieces, and talking to Coach Looney from the men's team prior to, I said, well, you're coming up on, your exhibition part of your season, and coaches will use that as an evaluation. And he said, well, we went to Panama and already did that.
Yeah.
So we're ready.
He's at a different place, yeah.
We're ready to win, but you're in a different spot, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're still trying to figure out, because it's funny to watch the progression. Every week you have a couple people that have breakthroughs. Something they were struggling with for a while, and then all of a sudden, oh, boom, there it is. One of those people is Sydney Bevington. Sydney has been trying to work through some things, and all of a sudden because she's stuck with it, she's starting to gain some ground now. She's starting to understand some of the things that she's got to do and things she has to do. And so, I think you're just going to keep having that as the season goes on. You're going to have some people, hopefully, that continue to just have breakthroughs, and then put me in a position, hopefully, where I've got to figure out how do they fit in for playing time now.
Definitely. So going into the first matchup next Friday, the 4th, against Black Hill State, do you look at what Black Hill State does much, or are you more focused on, what are we doing?
It's a lot about us, but at the same time, part of us and the way we do things, especially with our scouting reports and how we prepare our defense, we do have to pay attention to the opponent. That would be a luxury that I would never understand. Some people have that luxury where they're just so talented and they're so athletic and they have such great size, they don't have to worry about the opponent much, because if they just do what they do, it's going to be better than them. And we've never been that way here, even through our 3 championship teams. We've had to pay a lot of attention to our opponents. So it's good for us to practice that. Even with Black Hills, and we have a scrimmage this weekend that we will do a full-blown scout for and watch film on, and it's part of the learning process of us, how we prepare for every game.
It helps for the players as well, right, to go in with the idea that, hey, this is just like a regular season game. We're going to prepare just like we would any other game.
Yeah, and it's a test. Our coaching staff is also evaluating, okay, who can follow a scout, who can follow direction, who can execute something that we want executed.
Yeah. And which coach, do you have one coach that handles the scouting reports?
No, we alternate, and I will even do some scouts sometimes, but between Maya and Courtney, they'll do the scouts, and Dora will be at the level pretty soon where she could probably jump in and do some scouts as well.
And with Maya being a new coach, this gives you a chance to also kind of evaluate her as she puts her scout reports together.
Yeah, and it's less of a evaluation. It's more of just teaching her how we do it. You know, she's done scouting reports, and she's coached with great coaches like Russ Davis at Vanguard is a legendary coach, and then she was coached by great coaches at University of Denver when she was with Eric Johnson over there. Great coach, and so she has the knowledge. She just how we like to do it here. That's the part she has to learn.
So you've got Black Hill State Friday the 4th, and then Monday the 7th you'll play Westminster. As you're watching these teams, do you think in the back of your head, like, oh, this team kind of reminds me of Sac State, or the way these guys play?
And the opponent?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's always some type of, similarity or someone you can compare them to. You know, it's never exact. But, yeah, and I don't – with our exhibitions and the non-D1s that we're playing, I don't know if I've done a great job as a coach because they're good. Black Hills is going to be tough. You know, Mark Norrie is a great coach, and he's got some older kids now. And Westminster is going to be really good. They have 3 Division I transfer guards who are really good. And then Montana Tech, when we play them later on in the year, they just hired like one of the legendary high school basketball coaches in the state of Montana. And so we don't have any pushovers. You know, these are 3 games. We better have our stuff together if we want a chance.
Yeah, so I'm a Montana native, so I know those Montana schools pretty well. And you're right,
Yeah.
they're all really good. I remember Carroll College came here
yeah.
last year and really pushed you guys.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know, she's a great coach, Rochelle. You know, and she was at Weber forever, and she just knows how to be prepared. She knows talent. She really hustles in recruiting. Rochelle's a really good coach. I'm sure she's probably turned down a couple Division I jobs, but she's a Montana person, and so is her husband.
Definitely. So you'll play Westminster on Monday the 7th, and then you hit the road at USC. Hey, no big deal, right?
Yeah. No reason to put it off. Let's get this out of the way. We got to get our guarantee games in, and Lindsay Gottlieb does a great job down there, and she actually was, she's had a couple of different head coaching jobs. She took Cal Berkeley to the Final Four one year, but she also most recently was an assistant coach with the Cleveland Cavaliers. You know, so she really knows her stuff. And when I was at UC Riverside, we played against USC a few times. So I've been there a few times. She was a coach then, Mark Track was, but yeah, it'll be a good test for us. And I like playing the big schools and the tough schools. We need to do it for guaranteed game money for obviously, but also, when you play a tough opponent like that, they really show you what you need to work on. They make it obvious. And so we have some great film sessions after it.
Right here in this film room.
That's right. This is one of the places we do it.
That we're hanging out in. All right. So, again, the women's basketball team opens their season Friday, November 4th against Black Hill State. All you Bengal fans need to pack Reed Gym, make it loud, make it rowdy, and get to know these new players that are going to be here this year. Right?
Yeah. I think it's fun. I think there's a lot of optimism and excitement, and we're young, and the road's going to be a little bumpy, but I think once we figure it out, we have a chance to be pretty good.
I think it's going to be fascinating to watch the progression of this team.
No, I agree. And the fun part for me too is, I'm not scared to try something new and different now. The team was, on cruise control the last couple of years. I just had to make sure I didn't screw it up, and give them the freedom to do what they had to do to be successful. And now that group's gone. We got this fresh new group, and so it's time to maybe try something new and something different.
Yeah, it's going to be really fascinating to watch as well.
Yeah, and that's fun for me.
Yeah.
It's fun for me. There's so many things I haven't tried, and I've always been interested in just because, I didn't want to. The timing wasn't right to try to do something like that.
Well, no better time like the present. So
Yeah.
we'll see it all for the first time on Friday, November 4th. Seton Sobolewski, head women's basketball coach. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, we're going to talk a little Bengals cross country after the break. We'll bring on Coach Houle to talk about the Big Sky Conference Championships coming up real soon. So we'll be back right after this break. You're watching Roaring with the Bengals on isubengals.com.
Time to trade your job for a career? Push it to the next level with Idaho State University. More degree options to choose from with 4 convenient campus locations. Master your options by visiting isu.edu. Careers roar at Idaho State.
Back to Roaring with the Bengals on isubengals.com. Brandon Maney joined now by Bengals cross-country coach Nate Houle. Coach Houle, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah. Is this your first time in the film room for?
This is literally my first time in here. I feel kind of guilty. I mean, it's not like we would use it a lot, but, different building, but it's beautiful. I love to see renovations happening and improvements, so, great to see it.
Yeah, definitely. Volleyball, men's and women's basketball uses. You could organize a film session in here, right?
I know, right? I mean, I feel like I was saying, we have like a team movie night.
Yeah, there you go.
That's worthy of use of this room, right?
Definitely.
Team activity, yeah.
For sure. The Big Sky Championships are coming up this week, and we'll get to that, but I wanted to backtrack a little bit just to catch up on the last couple of competitions and how things have been going. So let's start with the Bengal Open. How exciting is that to be able to host that every year and put on a great competition for everyone?
Yeah, I think it's imperative that we keep some home events in place. It's a little unfortunate the way the sport's organized that there's just very few opportunities for the community to see, the team at all. Most team sports, there's home away schedules and there's repetitive opportunities. For us, if we don't have this, no one sees us. No one sees it. And so it's our one chance to do it. It's not a particularly competitive meet, although this year got a lot bigger than it's been, which was good to see. And it's just being at home for the athletes, I think, is always a benefit as well, right? And so we generally we will run better at home, both in cross country and in track. And so that's usually a nice addition. But our course is also unique in that it's more difficult than most everything we see. And I like that. I think that's an advantage we have. I also think it's a little bit closer to the purpose of the sport anyways, and so it's a fun event for us. And traditionally we've done like pancakes and things like that in conjunction with it. This year we moved to Friday, so we didn't do that, but I don't know, it's just good. It's good to have a crowd out there. A lot of parents that are maybe from the local athletes can come out and see, and then any other local athletes, maybe high school kids and things like that. So
for sure. Yeah. So tell me how the course differs from what you see elsewhere.
When you get to Division I like this, everything's golf courses, and I mean, we joke it's just grass tracks. It's just we're just doing track on grass instead, and it bugs me. But for whatever reason, that's the thing. Kids start focusing on times in cross, which drives me crazy. And so this for me is kind of a relic almost, our course, in a good way, in the sense that it brings back kind of some of the true meaning of the sport and keeps it what it should be. There's hills, right? There's dirt. There's elements to it, and I think that's part of it. And so it's funny because people are like, oh, you must come up here and train all the time on the course, and frankly we don't, because it doesn't suit what we're trying to train for, which for conference and everything else. Flat grass stuff is what we're trying to work on. So we train on a little in preparation for that whole meet, but yeah, it's unique, and I think it's fun because usually we have visiting teams come here and they usually complain a lot, and it usually makes my heart sing a little bit. So
it is. It's kind of a throwback where there's cross country, and then there's what people say is real cross country, like you said, the hills and even the terrain, right? It could be some courses will have gravel or sand or dirt or along with the grass, right?
Right, yeah. And I mean, you see some courses. I mean, you look at the World Cross Country Championships, they literally put logs on the course. They have like elements. Like it's almost like some of these Spartan races or something. Now we're not going to have like flaming pits or barbed wire, but having difficult elements in a race make for an interesting event instead of just, grass circles. So
I don't know, flaming pits and barbed wire. I'd see if we could earmark that for next
year. I'll ask you the coaches what they say about it.
Yeah.
They may not agree.
All right, so we had the Bengal Open. Cassandra Vasquez, top finisher on the female side. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah. she's been quite a revelation this year. She's a true sophomore. She's from Idaho. She came here with good times that she really only got her like at state her senior year. So we recruited her as an athlete who was, I would say on paper, worse than what she ended up out of high school being. Freshman year did really well, and then over the summer just had a great summer. Showed up this year, started breaking a bunch of some of our benchmarks that we have, some like team records and things we have on the books, and so we kind of came into this race for her was, all right, lay low a little bit, really for everybody, lay low and accelerate as we go on that on lap 2 really of the race. And you know, Utah State had a girl who was at I believe I think she was at the U19 U.S. Championships this last summer in Eugene. Kind of went after it early on. And so, you know, Cassie laid low like she was instructed, went along with the plan really well. And our course, like I said, it's difficult, so it pays to be a little bit patient on it. And again, knowing our course helps. And so she caught up to her kind of on that last climb you see before they come around through the first lap, and then they kind of were stride for stride to the bottom of the course, and then she just left her and ended up winning by like 25, 30 seconds on that series of climbs on the back, which was really good to see, just the strength there. So, yeah, she's been really fun to watch this year.
Yeah, it's refreshing to talk to you because I hear all the time people say, well, you are what your time says you are. And it's like there's more to it than that, right? And like you said, just focusing on the times will drive you crazy. Even when you're recruiting somebody that's in high school, you like to see them actually compete, right?
Correct, yeah. And I actually long for the high school mentality sometimes, which probably sounds weird, but I see high school kids that like are clueless. They don't know what they're doing. They're just going out there and their goal is to win. Like that's it. And they just run. And they run hard. And in college, we get a little too cute about things sometimes. And we try and dial in and try and do all these things. I'm like, dude, forget it. Let's just go. Go run, go compete, win the race. It's still a race. And the NCAA, especially in track, it's kind of diminished itself down into just a series of time trials. And we're always just racing a clock all the time. And I'm like, we're still racing people. So in cross, it kind of brings a little bit of that back, especially as the course gets more difficult. We forget times. We just race each other, and it's a little more exciting, and there's a little more drama involved when it gets like that. So,
because you can come in with a plan, right? Okay, I'm going to start and have this pace at this mark, and then some guy from another school comes shooting way out of the gate and throws it all off course, right?
Exactly, and I love when that happens. I just love to see the chaos that kind of ensues. I mean, you see it, like you watch like a sport like the Tour de France, right? It's not about what times are, really. No one's got records. The course changes every year. But it's mano a mano. It's a race, and that's where the drama comes in, and that makes it fun. So, trying to maintain some of that, and really for the kids, we show up to a race and we're trying to get super specific. Sometimes it can inhibit them because they're more stressed about the details. And if you just simplify and it's a contest of who can hurt the most. In the end, it's just make it that. Just get after it and see what happens. So they're fit. Most of the work's done before the race starts anyway. So.
That's right. We talked about all this preparation for 20 minutes of activity. So
yeah.
You went to Santa Clara as well to compete at the invite down there. The men took 12th. The women took 14th. What did you think?
Yeah, we the whole season really has been a build up towards conference. We're trying to assemble this system, I guess, so that when we show up to conference this weekend, and I guess we'll probably talk about that, we don't have to do anything new, right? It's just we've done it, we've practiced it. All the other meets were pretty low key. We've gone from meets of 5 teams, 6 teams, whatever, to this meet we had 28 teams or something like that, on a very fast course, at sea level on top of that, so that we're physically running paces that we haven't ran yet, right? And so there's increased anxiety around the size of the race, the speed of the race. Cassie's one, I think, that got caught up in that a little bit, where she's used to being one of the best every time, and she found herself in the 10 to 20 range. Oh my gosh, I'm hurting early, and people are around me still, and that's not what she's been used to this last year. So there's some elements there that were important, I think, in our preparation. And so we went in there. We were kind of thinking somewhere in the ballpark of, mid-pack. I think the guys were supposed to be, I think in my numbers before, we were supposed to be 16, 17, 18 or something like that. So we did exceed some expectation there, which I think was good. The guys pack is just really tight, which I love to see. We're so young. Over half our squad is freshmen. And so having this interchangeable group of scorers has been massive. It makes for a really consistent team. And the ladies are a little more spread out, but even then, I think we had a couple that got really surprised me, and a few who maybe didn't have the race they wanted, but I was happy with it because the reason they didn't is we took some risks. We kind of were like, all right, this race is fast. And a couple of them I was like, all right, I want you just to get after it. I want you to just go out there, maybe take some risks, risk the idea that you might blow up. And a couple of them did. And I was totally fine with it because it doesn't matter. The race doesn't matter. And it was just an experiment to see where we were, test our fitness, so that when we went to conference, we didn't have to make that mistake then. We got that out of the way, we know, and now we can formulate exactly how we want to do conference. So it was good.
Okay, let's we'll take a break and come back and talk about the men and women to keep an eye on. I love the concept of your men's team of it's a pack of 5 that are all interchangeable. But we'll break that down more and talk about the Big Sky Conference Championships coming up this weekend as well. Right after this break, we're talking cross country with head coach Nate Houle. We'll be back right after this on Roaring with the Bengals on ISUBengals.com. Back to Roaring with the Bengals on ISUBengals.com. Brandon Maney here with Bengals cross-country coach Nate Houle. Let's break down these rosters that you've got. Let's start on the men's side where going into break we talked about how you've got this pack of 5 that are all interchangeable. They all kind of push each other because in cross-country it's not always the team with the best finisher that wins. It's the team that has the best depth, right?
Correct, yeah. If you really break things down, you'll see most results will show a team score, which is based on placing alone. And that's how results are done. But they also usually include a 1 through 5 average time. And you'll sometimes see, teams with a better average time actually lose to another team because, if you've got one superstar, they could win by 30 seconds but over second place, but that's still only 1 point advantage over second place. And so having your, 3, 4, 5 come in close to your 1 and 2, you don't get caught. There's not like that traffic right there. We don't get caught with those big numbers at the end. And I always tell the guys, I'm like, listen, there's we're getting into stats here, right? But if we get into this whole bell curve, right? If we can get that 5 on the front end of that bell curve, all of a sudden we pass a lot of teams, even without a huge number 1. Now you can be good with the number 1, obviously. That's really solid, but those usually will be more advantageous in a huge race. But at conference, we got 10 teams. And so you'll get a couple extra points by having some studs out front. But, for me, it's like if we can just get ahead of the bulk of the athletes in the middle of the group with our whole 5, that really is advantageous. So the guys is good. And the other piece is consistency. Like, really we have 5 to 6 maybe guys that are pretty close to one another. So let's say, like, Santa Clara is a great example. I thought Sam Jones, he might be our top guy. He's a California guy. He's going to have a bunch of family there. It's kind of more, it's the courses he grew up on. So he knows that style of racing out there, that like gravel dirt stuff. And so we thought, okay, he's going to get out there and probably run really well. He's looking great in practice. But he ended up being, I think, our 5th guy. But instead now a true freshman, Sonny Gunn from Pocatello is our top guy. And so they can interchange. It reduces the pressure on one single guy. So like for the ladies with Cassandra, if she doesn't have a great day, it's like, well, no one's coming to replace her, right? So it's a lot bigger task. So she knows that she has to be there. And the guys, they have that comfort of knowing that, people can interchange pretty well. So it's nice from a coach's standpoint. that your team's going to be probably pretty predictable in the end. So
Definitely. So you mentioned Sam, and of course, local fans will recognize Sonny Gunn, the great Pocatello High distance runner. Who else do you have on the men's roster this year?
Like I said, we're really young. I mean, at Santa Clara, our first 3 guys were true, freshmen. So Sonny was our top guy for the first time this year. Seth Babbo is an absolute surprise. He got off his mission in June, and I never race people their first year out. I mean, they're nowhere close to ready. The plan was redshirt at least 6 months, if not the full year. And he shows up to our initial cut-down race in August, and he wins it. And I'm like, who's this kid? And it's funny because his high school PRs were really not particularly strong. So it's not like he was a world-class talent that came back quickly. A huge surprise for me. And so we waited a few more weeks and ended up pulling his red shirt, and he's been our top guy multiple times. But anyway, so he was our second guy, freshman. And then Gavin Pollock, which another funny story, we signed his younger brother in, I think, January. And he had just gotten off a mission and said, hey, my brother just signed with you, but I just got back off a mission, and his brother just left on a mission. And so he's like, I want to come run for you, and so we signed a brother, but actually got his brother. So he showed up, and he was our third guy, which was phenomenal. And so, and then Brandon Walker, who's been one of our only guys that's a returner, is having a much better year this year. We've kept him healthy, and then Sam was our fifth. So our oldest guy right now in our whole top 5 is a sophomore, so I like where we're headed, and they're really close. And I got 2 more guys redshirting that are freshmen right now, too, that will jump in next year. So really young, and it's a really close team, and they get along with, all those qualities you want. So it's a really fun team. I'm excited for kind of the future with that group, too.
Definitely, and the present is still also very good for the men. On the women's side, Keely Wolf made her season debut at Santa Clara. What does she add to this lineup?
She brings experience. She was actually a few years ago a transfer in from Portland State. So she came in, although she's from Idaho. She was somebody that we were just having some fatigue and health-related issues early on. And so we were just being very patient with trying to make sure that she was ready to go before we actually let her loose. A couple of weeks before Santa Clara started really looking good. Things were starting to click again for her. And so, we brought her in. And I would say she did better than I thought, but not a ton better just based on practice. Like, I thought that's about what she could do. And so I was happy to see that actually happen. It's sometimes tough, first race of the year. You haven't raced since May or whatever to really get it right your first time out. But she did in a high-pressure situation, did great. I thought that was – and I think that does bode to her, it shows her experience and how that kind of helps, to be able to show up first time and just get it right. So
definitely. And now we look ahead to the Big Sky Championships, Eastern Washington hosting this year. How many? So there's a certain amount of individuals will advance to the regional, and then a certain number of teams. What are those parameters this year?
So region's funny in our sport. So, and really conferences too. Everybody goes to conference. So every team races. There's no all right, we have that's why I'm saying Santa Clara does not matter other than just testing things, right? You don't qualify for conference. So you go to conference, you race, and really there's no connection between conference and region even. And so you race there, and then every team in the region can run. It's really strange, actually. It's just open, I guess, that way. And so in terms of qualifying for the NCAA championships, everybody participates in that. And so it's kind of a cool aspect of our sport that way, is that we actually start from a clean slate regardless of what's happened before. It's just, all right, everybody line them up, and everybody races everybody. And then, that narrows down from 9 regions to the national championship. And so, so everyone usually is there. And so it's interesting because we get to see exactly where we're at.
Okay, I was thinking of that track and field formula where, like you said, it's prelims after prelims, and the field slowly gets whittled down. Okay, so what are your expectations for the Bengals going into Big Sky? Who are other teams that look strong?
So the Big Sky's funny because it's incredibly competitive. I just still don't think people understand what we're up against. I was joking last year because I think we didn't do that well on the guys last year. I think we got 9th or something. But we went to Texas A&M 2 weeks prior, and if you plug us into the Big 12 meet, we get 5th in that conference. So it's like that's kind of what we're up against. We're equivalent to some of these Power 5 conferences right now, and so it's interesting, and so every place is a big difference in our conference. But what we're looking at right now, we just raced Sac State in California and beat both of them in the men and women's side. We've raced Montana at the Montana State meet and beat both their men and women. So I anticipate that we're ahead of them. And really, I think we line up closely with Eastern on both men and women, pretty closely, so the hosts. So our goal is kind of to see where we line up with those guys. After that, Weber's the next guys team who we just raced against in Santa Clara and lost to. And so I find us maybe chasing about right there where Eastern's at on the guys. If we can do that, that'd be awesome. And then on the women, kind of the same thing. Eastern and Northern Colorado, actually, we're all projected to be really close. So if we can finish in front of that grouping, I think that would be a success for us. So that's kind of where we're looking for. Definitely.
The Big Sky is tough to predict as well because, like you said, the Big 12, well, they're all right there in Texas, Oklahoma. The Big Sky is so spread out. What Montana is running in is different from NAU, which is different from Sac State. So it makes kind of predicting how it might go difficult, right? Right. Yeah, and track, like you were mentioning, it's so objective and it's so calculated. Everybody's tracks are exactly the same, and we even do altitude adjustments if you're at altitude. Whereas cross, it's like who knows what that course looked like? Because Spokane right now, it's raining, right? And so is the course, even last year was fast, but is this year going to be quick? Or is it going to be a muddy mess, So you kind of try and line up and say, all right, I should be with these guys, and this is about where we should be. And so unless you hit head-to-head together, you don't really know. And then there's always the human variable, right? You don't know exactly. This is the time of year people start getting sick, and midterms were this week. There's all these other elements that we don't really think about because we don't operate in a vacuum. These kids have stresses in life. They get sick. These things happen. And so, there's always the big question marks, which is fun, again, so that we all show up same day, same course. We all race each other, and we see who's actually where. And it's a fun way to solve it. So what I heard was embrace the chaos. Yes. And like I said, I love it sometimes. So. Yeah. Well, we're excited to see how the Bengal men and women compete at the Big Sky Conference Championships. Eastern Washington hosting that this Friday. So good luck, and pressing on to regionals as well. It's going to be exciting. Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, cross-country coach Nate Houle joining us here on Roaring with the Bengals. That'll do it. We gave you 3 different coaches today. That's pretty good content. We're doing this every single week on isubengals.com. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.